go ahead and open. Good afternoon. We wanted to make ourselves available to explain, since it's a process change, to explain why we made the change to the announcement date for revenues and the new process, and then answer questions about that. And then also, when Secretary Jordan passes out the revenue numbers for August, we'll go through those since there are some anomalies in that compared to previous months. So all of you are familiar in this room with how we normally report or have reported revenues. There generally have been 3 different groups that have done that. So in an effort to streamline the process, we're changing it or proposing to change it and see how it goes after a couple of months. And if it just creates more confusion or questions, then we will look at changing it again or going back to what we were doing. So traditionally or historically, Department of Revenue, as you know, would report on their tax-only receipts for the month on the last day of the last business day of the month. And then my staff within the Division of Budget would then post on the internet a total revenue report that would include revenues numbers, but also some of the other non-tax revenue sources. And then generally within 10 days of the start of the month, the Kansas Legislative Research Department, or KRD for short, would also post that same total revenue picture with a 1 or 2 page narrative behind it explaining the numbers, particularly for legislators. So with the 3 different versions, I often, and Secretary Jordan often would get questions about why different numbers or different formats, and most of the questions that would come to me would be which of these formats really impact the budget, and that really was the total revenue picture and not just the tax receipt only picture that Department of Revenue report on the last day of the month. So that is the reason that we're changing it starting this month. So I think as you'll see here in a minute, the report that we'll distribute will be similar to what you're used to seeing every month. It will still have the same revenue sources that Department of Revenue would distribute again, and we'll have a subtotal that says KDOR tax collections, so you're able to focus on that. And my opinion is that still is the most important factor to look at when these are distributed or done every month. So with that, I'll turn it over to Secretary Jordan.
Yeah, I think we'll hand out those monthly revenue spreadsheets. And I also want to say we're glad to have Interim Secretary, Interim Secretary Mike Copland with us from Commerce too, to answer some questions. And you'll probably know why some of that's there here in a few minutes. But I'm going to run you down some numbers, so I'm going to kind of get in the weeds and do a little discussion on the tax revenues side, starting with general revenues and just kind of an overall look, and then Shawn can answer questions about the non-tax side of the ledger. Total receipts for August overall for the state of Kansas were under estimates by 6.4 million or 1.5%. Fiscal year to date, they're under estimate by 10.8 million or 1.3%. That's total revenues, that's including insurance premiums and other revenue sources outside of tax. So I'll walk a little bit deeper into the tax revenue receipt side, and then Shawn can comment on the other income. State general fund tax revenues were under estimates by 25.7 million in August, or 5.7%. That is due mainly, and I'm going to talk about this in a moment, due mainly to some unanticipated refunds that took place in the month of August in the Department of Revenue. And those were economic development refunds. And in no way today are we saying those in a critical way. We're saying those are great, those produce growth, they produce jobs in the state of Kansas, but they do count against our tax revenues. So we're going to explain what those are this afternoon. But it was 22.3 million of unanticipated tax refunds. So you can count that against that 25.7. As an example, in corporate, you'll see on the spreadsheet that we're under on corporate tax revenue. 13.7 million of that was an HPIP situation. So 13.7 million is attributed to HPIP, a claim that was made for a significant development in the state of Kansas. Again, great development. It's going to bring a lot of economic benefit to Kansas, but it is a refund that caused our corporate income tax to be underwater this August. On individual income tax, you'll see again we're under some. That was due. We had a $6.8 million in peak refunds this month. That's a little higher. That's 5.1 million more than we paid last August. Again, both of these are you know, we anticipate refunds over the year, and that may smooth out by the time we're done with this year, but these are ones that impacted the August revenue picture. So 6.8 million or 5.1 million more is attributed to a peak refund. 3.5 million is attributed to some fiduciary refunds that were unexpected that were claimed this month. The good news about individual income tax, and we always watch this, is withholding in the month of August this year is 6.7% higher than withholding tax receipts of August of last year. We're real pleased about that. That obviously relates to jobs, and we're always glad to see the withholding tax receipts up. Sales tax, which everybody I know is interested in because of the sales tax increase. I might say we're still not sure everybody's reporting. We're pretty sure most people are. As you know, July 1st was the time to start implementing the new sales tax in the state of Kansas. We also had a 30-day notice, so some people may not have met the July 1st date, but we think by the numbers that most did. So while we're under estimates, if you take into account the tax law changes that were put in place this session with the increase in the tax rate and the change in the transfer to the highway fund, we had a 3.9% sales tax increase over last year, which we think is significant. That's a good increase, particularly compared to the last couple of months' experience. Use tax, again, if you take into account the tax law changes and the changes that were made in the tax rate and the transfer to the highway fund, actually had a 15.2% increase in use tax receipts for August over last year. So 3.9% on sales tax, 15.2% on use tax, which are both nice, healthy increases in sales tax receipts for the state of Kansas. Cigarette tax, we obviously added the 50 cents to it. We saw a 52.8% increase in cigarette tax receipts in the month of August. So overall, probably would have hit, if not exceeded, our tax estimates. We had the refunds. Again, don't want to be critical of those refunds. They include growth. They include economic development programs that really create a good economy for the state of Kansas, but they are something that we have to account for in our revenue report. So with that, Shawn, we'll go back to you.
I'll cover two more things. If you go to the bottom of the page under the other taxes and other revenues, as I said earlier, we're trying to present the total revenue picture here, but again, would say to still mainly focus on the Department of Revenue tax collections. That's on the first half of the page. But two things on the bottom half. The first is insurance premiums, which skew the total revenue picture for the month. They're showing $4.5 million less than what the projections are. That's mainly related to the timing of audits and refunds that go out from the insurance department to the companies that pay into that. So that will even itself out throughout the year as we get into the fiscal year. The second part that will look funny or skew the numbers here is the net transfers line. I did put a footnote at the bottom of the spreadsheet. So this is the second to last row under other revenues before the total shows a $24.29 million being above what the estimates were for August, and that is primarily 22 of that million is from the allotments that were announced in July. So of the $62 million of allotments that were announced about a month ago, 22 million of those were what are called the revenue transfers, and just the way that it flows through the state general fund, it has to show up in this revenue report as a transfer. So this is an example is reducing the expenditure authority for the Department of Transportation by the $8 million that we captured with the allotments. You then have to transfer that $8 million less than expenditure authority over to the state general fund. So 22 of that million is through the net transfers. So as you see for August, total receipts is $6.3 million less than estimates. But when you add or back out that 22 million, that would be really $28 million total revenue less than estimates. So trying to create more of a total picture here, but until November, consensus revenue estimates are updated. That'll show in the net transfer line as being much more than what had been estimated. So I wanted to just explain that to bring that to light, so it didn't seem like we were trying to hide anything there. So with that, I'll turn over to Mike to talk to you about some of the credits.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be here with you today. My name is Michael Copland, Interim Secretary of Commerce for the Kansas Department of Commerce, and I wanted to talk to you about the two main economic development programs we have here in Kansas. First is our PEAK program, which is designed to attract employees to Kansas. It is a very important tool in our toolkit, and it has generated over its life over a $7.5 billion economic impact to the state of Kansas. In fact, LPA recognizes its benefit to our economy and says that for every dollar the state invests, over $50 is enjoyed in return on investment. Similarly, HPIP, which is designed more of a program to attract capital investment in the state of Kansas, enjoys also a more than $50 per dollar invested by the state of Kansas. So there are two great programs that have generated some success here in Kansas, and I think we're seeing that today. So thank you very much.